Okay, and welcome back, students taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications, and we're working on the theory for Chapter 18, Inventory and Overhead. And in this video, we are going to discuss the weighted average method as a method of inventory valuation. Remember, inventory valuation, the term valuation, this means how much the inventory is worth, okay? I mean, in the specific ID, if you have 500 cars, and they're at $40,000 each, that your value of your inventory is, $2 million because, it's relatively easy to do. But what happens when you start dealing with things like, say, a plumbing company that has servicemen, okay, and let's say they've got 20 servicemen, so they have a bunch of all kinds of fittings and nuts, bolts, piping, and whatever have you in their inventory, right? Well, it no longer becomes practical to try to do specific ID. Why? These guys are grabbing them by the handfuls, and when you buy them, the cost of them changes very frequently. So you could buy something, on the first day of the month, and that fitting might cost 19 cents, okay? And then on the 7th of the month, those fittings might cost 23 cents. And then on the 11th of the month, those fittings might cost 21 cents, okay? And, depending upon how many you buy, during the course of the month, you're not able to identify, which ones cost what, okay? So using the weighted average method becomes much easier to use. All right, so we still have this idea of cost of goods available for sale, meaning we have a beginning inventory, and we're going to add in inventory. Yep, Jim. Then we're going to add in our purchases, and that gives us our cost of goods available for sale. All right, and then out of that, you do a physical and ending inventory, a physical inventory to know what your ending inventory is, and the difference between those two is your cost of goods sold. I mean, that same structure stays into place, okay? But when you're doing the weighted average method, we're kind of going and saying, okay, here's my total cost of goods sold available for sale. So my cost of goods available for sale, all right? And I'm going to then divide that by the number of units for sale. And that's going to give me a cost per unit. And then I could take that cost per unit and multiply it by the number of units, okay, in order to give a valuation, an overall valuation for that specific item. Okay, so let me erase this here and kind of go through this, because you're looking at, what I have here is the cost of goods available. Let me write better here. My head's running all over the place. So I have my total cost of goods available for sale, and I'm dividing that by the total number of units for sale. Okay. Now, if I started out with a big, let's say I'm looking at a certain pipe fitting. Okay. Now, if I start out with a beginning inventory of, let's just say, $100, and there was, I have, no, not $100. Let's make that smaller. Let's call it $50. And let's say I had, to get to that $50, I had 75 of those fittings. Okay. Now, if I go out and I buy some more fittings, and let's say I buy 25 more, and this time I end up paying $30, so that's a purchase. And let's say I have to go out and buy another 15 more, and those cost me $20, so that's a purchase. Okay. So my cost of goods available for sale now is 100. All right, $100, and the total number of units is $115. Okay. So, but if I do the math, $50 divided by 75, these are worth 66 cents each. The 30 divided by 25, these are worth $1.20 each, and 20 divided by 15 is $133 each. I'm sorry, $1.33 each. Now, obviously, these are all getting stacked in a bin, and they're fittings. Each one looks just like the other one, and and you're not going to keep separate boxes for each and every time you purchase something. Okay, that's insane. So you are going to just stick them in the bin, and the repairmen are just going to grab. Okay, so no longer can you use specific ID. So it makes it easier to sit there and say, okay, yeah, I purchased 100 of them, and I'm sorry, I purchased $100 worth, and that was 415 of them. Okay, so 100 divided by 115, that means the average cost per each one is 87 cents. Okay, that's the average cost for each one. Okay, when I take the 115 times 87, I still get the goods available for sale of $100. Okay, but I know each one is worth that 87 cents. So now when I go to do a physical inventory, okay, and let's say I don't have 115 in those bins anymore. Now let's say I have only 60. I'm just picking a number here. So that means I sold 55, right? Well, now when I count up 60, I take 60 times the 87, and 60 times 87 cents, get it right here, 60 times decimal 87, and now that means my ending inventory is $52.20. So I take the $100 which was available for sale, and I subtract the $52.20, and that gives me $47.80, which is my cost of goods sold. Okay, so my inventory valuation is that, using the weighted average method, I mean, I'm having an ending inventory of $52.20, but because I'm using a weighted average method, I can, it makes my work a lot easier, and I can calculate my cost of goods sold using that weighted average method to say, okay, that's how much my cost of goods sold is. I mean, if I, it's just insane to be trying to say, well, out of these 55 that were taken, which ones were part of this group, which ones were part of this purchase, which ones were part, that's just insane. Okay, so by using the weighted average method, you can keep track. You receive the invoices, so you know how much money you're paying for them. Okay, and you know how many units that you've purchased, and because you know that, you're available for sale, and you're able to, and you can do a physical inventory to know your ending inventory. And because of that, you're able to calculate out what the value of the inventory is and your cost of goods sold. Okay. So that's, it's not any more difficult than that. It's just having to do that one extra step of being able to divide Let me get to that one extra step here. It's taking that one extra step of saying, okay, I know what my available for sale is and I know my number of units. So when I divide the two, I get a per unit cost. Okay, now I can take that per unit cost, and like I said, you're still going to do a physical inventory just like you did with specific ID. Somebody has to stand there and count out, those 60 that we said were still in inventory. Somebody's going to sit there and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've been part of that. You have I was in a retail establishment, and the whole crew comes in, and that's all you're doing is you're just counting these things. Now today they use scanners and stuff like that, which makes it a lot quicker. Back in the day, you were physically doing, counting by hand, all right? And then you're able to say, okay, because we're using the weighted average method, it's a lot easier for us to know how much the value of the inventory we have on hand is and how to figure out our cost of goods sold. Okay, so that's the weighted average method. Watch this video again if you don't understand it. Read the textbook, and if you still don't understand, feel free to telephone and speak with an instructor. But you'll get this chapter. Has these methods. The methods are a little bit more complicated, but in doing the homework problems, you'll get a much better feel for how they work. And really, if you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, then you're able to do these methods. It's just a matter of understanding what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. It's not about the math. Okay, so I will see you in the next video, which will cover FIFO and LIFO. All right.